There's one big mistake that I see business owners making all the time that directly impacts their profitability. We're going to be talking about that in this episode. As the business begins to scale, you ultimately end up adding to your team. It's no longer you as a solopreneur doing all of the things inside of the business, both the front end, back end, the acquisition, and the retention. But when the business scales and we add team members, those team members need to have very specific roles and responsibilities. Oftentimes, the community manager is the first hire, which if you ever need support with that, reach out to us and let us know. But that community manager usually has a primary focus on retention. And that tends to be how things go. We have marketing roles and we have retention related roles. Now, the big mistake that ends up happening is that we silo them. We begin to think very silo and one-dimensional in our thinking around the role of marketing and the role of retention. We think of them as two very different, unrelated things. And oftentimes I find that, especially the larger the organization gets, that marketing and retention roles are not talking to each other. The director of marketing, the director of retention, or the marketing manager and the community manager, they are not having regular conversations because their KPIs are different, right? Those measurement goals, that key performance indicator or whatever you want to call it, is different. So one of them is focused on getting new members in. The other one is focused on keeping members. And should that member leave, then they go back into the marketing budget focused on keeping those members. Why is this such a big mistake? It's a big mistake because marketing and retention go hand in hand together. They impact one another. Now, some people understand this concept and they can get pretty quickly how marketing could impact retention, but retention also impacts marketing. So if marketing and retention aren't working together in your team and they're not talking to each other, then you're definitely missing out on profitability, because those two leads, the marketing lead and the retention lead, should be meeting together regularly and cross-comparing data to support one another in their decision making. When it comes to marketing, it's really important that we're not just getting conversions, but we're actually attracting right fit customers into our program. Not just people that convert, not just people that are going to buy, but especially for recurring revenue programs like memberships, we need to make sure that we're attracting and converting people that are most likely to stick and to get results. When people stay longer, it increases retention, which increases the lifetime value of that customer. That means that we get more money out of customer A, who's a better fit customer, than we do out of customer B. So let's say customer A is a $600 value customer because their likelihood of staying longer is so much higher, and the other customer is a $300 customer. That has a completely different value to the bottom line of your business. So although your conversion rates might be higher for that $300 customer, unless those conversion rates are double the conversion rates, they aren't going to produce as much value in the business as the person who is going to stay for that $600 customer lifetime value. If it's twice the lifetime value for customer, you need twice the conversions to equal the same amount of revenue in the long run. That's a really important number to know. So it's important that marketing understands from retention who are the types of people that are staying, who are our highest lifetime value customers. Now, if you don't understand this, I talk about it in other episodes, but you need to really do an evaluation of customers that stick beyond your average customer length of stay. So if your average customer length of stay is about 10 months, then you want to look at talking to and surveying members who are staying well beyond 10 months and finding out what's different about them. It could be something demographically, it could be something, the actions that they're taking, it could be, and this is where it gets really good, is when we're actually tracking the lead source. When we track the lead source, where they originally got on your list from, and what their conversion mechanism is, we can often find that certain lead sources, for example, Facebook versus YouTube, are generating higher lifetime value leads. And how amazing is that? That kind of information gives you wonderful data in order to focus and double down your marketing efforts on certain conversion mechanisms, like maybe certain webinar topics or certain lead sources, like channels, for example. So that information is really important. This is why retention and marketing need to be talking with each other, because that's really important. If retention has really high OKRs or goals around retention and marketing has really high goals around acquisition, what we often find is they end up working against each other. I know, it sounds crazy, but as marketing tries all these new efforts and goes to colder and colder audiences, by default, we often find that with evergreen funnels and colder audiences, that retention actually suffers. So you're focused on growing acquisition and you're focused on, increasing retention as well as acquisition, and the efforts to increase acquisition lead to colder and colder audiences, which ultimately lead to not as good leads, not as right fit people that aren't as loyal. There are more tire kickers, and then that impacts retention. So retention can't hit their goal, even if marketing is. This is why you really want to be honed in on these things, because you want to make sure that the goals are really focused on overall revenue and profit margin, because that profit margin is going to get you thinking about the higher lifetime value customer and digging into your data to really determine who are those higher lifetime value customers. And once the retention team understands and knows that, and they can communicate that with the marketing team, then the marketing team knows where to lean in. Now, obviously, the marketing team needs great stories. They need great testimonials, and they're not going to be getting that without better retention, without people getting results. So ultimately, the community and retention people are responsible for helping people get results so that they become really great stories and testimonials for marketing to leverage to help get more people in the door. So that's why retention is really important to marketing as well. Not to mention just the general fact that a higher lifetime value leads to the ability to spend more money to acquire a new customer, which everybody in marketing would appreciate, having a higher cost per acquisition budget. So as we get more advanced, which I'm going to do in another episode, we'll talk about channels and acquisition methods and all of that kind of stuff. But I want you to just recognize right now that if marketing and retention are not working together, you need to make sure that they are meeting weekly to have conversations about how they are supporting each other in the goal to increasing overall company revenue and profit margin. If you have a membership where you're making at least six figures, these numbers and conversation around marketing and retention and LTV become more and more important. So if you don't know how to track LTV, then you need to go to memberltv.com, and I'm going to give you a free calculator to calculate your retention and lifetime value. And if you want help on the retention side and making sure that your retention leader is working with marketing and understands how all of this works, then I want you to consider joining Retain. Just send me a message, an email, or use the link in the show notes or description to find out more information about our retention-focused group consulting program called Retain.